Hi everyone, it's Eileen Burns from Stress Coach Training and the Spiritual Marketing Club. Now in today's video I'm going to talk about your biggest stressors and in relation to your main archetype or your strongest archetype. I have been studying lots of elements of stress management from the early 90s, and one of the things that you learn about stress is that stress comes in all sorts of disguises, and lots of different stressors are different for people. There's lots of things that are similar for us all, right? But we are all individual, and what might be a huge stressor for one person is often not a stressor for someone else, or just a mini stressor for someone else. And in many ways that comes down to I suppose a couple of basic things. And one of the things is that a lot of our stressors and how we see the world and what triggers us stems from childhood, right? It also is relatable to the roles that we form in life and how our identity, what shapes us as people and what we think is important, what kind of role, even if we don't realise it on a conscious level. On an unconscious level, we form a sort of persona about ourselves and an identity. And a lot of stressors, when you feel that your persona or your identity is being threatened, that can cause major triggers. Okay, so if we look at the basics of stress, and what I mean is negative stress, and I'm talking about stress that is triggered in a perception. Okay, so when I talk about stress, I also talk about stressors that are biological, that are related to, more environmental, like biological, where something that's toxic or whatever can get into the system, or we're ingesting something that can be a stressor in the system. But what I'm talking about is what most people would class as negative stress, right? Most negative stress in the modern world is just a perceived threat. Our mind is whatever we see in a situation or we perceive, and I think that's important. When you look at something and you see it through your eyes and you perceive it a certain way, you immediately make a belief about that. You have a perception about it. And what that does, that's a negative perception, and you feel that you are in some way, your psyche, or your physical, mental, emotional body is being threatened mentally, emotionally, physically, even spiritually, right? You will respond and react, and you react in the fight or flight response. So in many ways there's different levels, because like, say for example, if your house was on fire, right, and you right away smell smoke, right, and you can hear burning, that is going to have a very, very strong reaction, right? And you're going to be able to do things and run quickly, grab the kids, do whatever you need to do to get out, right? And in the extreme circumstances, lots of people are very, very strong, like the adrenaline levels go through the roof. It's almost like the body is psyched up and prepared. So that's why our body responds the way it does to stress. It goes into the fight or flight, and it does certain things, chemical things in the body. So there's certain, it's like almost the energy and the power goes to the heart, right? So it's pumping really fast, right? And it goes to certain, organs, so that we can focus. We can just focus on one thing and just do it, right? So it's a survival response to give us a way to respond to danger, right? And life-threatening danger. But modern stress is very different. We have formed all these beliefs. We are living in a system that's very controlled, and this is the way you do things. You have to do this. You have to do this in your job. This is what you do. This is how you live your life. And every culture, every religion, and even every family has different beliefs. And all of that is passed down of us, right? But from a child, every single one of us has different types of fear and wounding and experiences that are negative and that can feel traumatic, right? There's different levels of trauma, of course, as well. And obviously, if a child's abused or neglected, there's triggers then as well. But every single one of us learn to survive, and often we, this is why inner child work can be very powerful if it's done in the safest and effective way. And inner child work goes hand in hand with the archetypes because it is archetypes. So, understanding archetypes is one of the fundamentals of inner child work. And when you understand that we all take on certain roles in life, and we also take on archetypes even to survive, or as a way to expand the role and the gifts that we feel that we're here to do, okay? And the easiest way to probably explain it is that archetypes are basically personas and roles, and they're all in the conscious and the unconscious. And most of the most common archetypes we all recognise, we just don't realise it. So common archetypes are the hero. And if you look at television and media, they use personas, the strong archetypes, to tell a story. And there'll be certain traits and behaviour that these people will do so that it correlates with something that you recognise on the unconscious. So the typical motherly figure. Now, in archetypes that are, like particularly the modern archetypes, we see the caregiver. It's called the caregiver, the nurturer, and it's got a motherly element where they care for others, right? They're very supportive and nurturing and giving, right? So that's, very heart-based. So that is one role. Then you have things like the rebel, right? And the rebel can obviously come, and it can sometimes be called different things. But I guess it's basically someone who kind of breaks the rules, breaks the laws, and breaks boundaries in many ways. Now, the rebel can have amazing qualities if the strong, you get a strong rebel archetype, because you can see out the box and you can see when rules and laws and guidelines that don't need to necessarily be there. But also the shadow element of a rebel is that if they go through their life rebelling all the time, that's going to cause them problems, because they get into a pattern, just like what happens is, because we take that role on, it becomes really interlocked with our identity. And things like the rebel, when the rebel's out of hand, it can be really a lot of inner child wounding. That child has found that the rebel was the only way at that point they felt they could survive, right? Even aspects of the caregiver and the nurturer. So, someone can be naturally going to be a helper, a motherly figure, a nurturing life. A lot of healers got the strong caregiver and nurturer traits in them. Nurses, doctors. But the reality, it can get out of balance if you think that that's your role and you're only there to do that. That you can take on all sorts of roles, that you take on the mother for every role that you're in, or your people in the relationships you're in, or it can also stem into things like the helper, the rescuer, or the martyr, right? And we also have archetypes that are strong leaders, right, or rulers. So again, like the rebel, you can imagine that there's lots of good qualities that someone that can be a leader, right, and can lead people, right? But again, that we can understand, we all know that if someone only wants to lead and it only recognises the lead role and they're used to doing that, then they can find it hard to back down in certain circumstances. They expect others to lead, right, and all these type of things. So stressors are very much interlinked with our archetypes and your clients' archetypes, and it's one of the reasons why I am running a course. I think that it would really help a lot of healers and therapists and coaches at the moment, because a lot of people are coming from a great deal of stress and fear, anxiety. There's so much wounding's going on, wounding is being triggered because of primal fear at the moment, particularly in relation to the way things are coming out in the world, and the way certain things are being served, the way the government, the medical establishment are doing certain things, and what it's causing a lot of not just fear and stress, but it's causing people to feel disempowered and confused. And when people feel disempowered and confused, it can lead to a lot of apathy. And if you think about the freeze response often comes when people have had trauma, right? And then they're in a situation they feel traumatized. And there's a lot of people in the freeze response if you look at it in a certain way. So when you understand archetypes and understand certain aspects of the personas or the role identity some of your clients are dealing with, it makes things a lot easier, right? And it helps you break down certain barriers or things that are really causing the major problems. And this will be a 4-week course, and it's aimed at introducing you to looking at the different archetypes, and it will help you. I believe it's so important that when you do a course that you use it to work on yourself first, But it is an introduction, but we will be looking at the different archetypes and recognising some of the biggest stressors in those archetypes and how they show up. And if it's something that you're interested in, I'm doing this video in August 2021 and I'll be running it in September 2021. I will put an information link at the bottom, and after we run it as a live course, it will be also available as like a self-study course. You'll be able to get the recordings, so you'll be able to get the details below. I think it's really important to remember that every single one of us have different stressors, and we all react to things in different way, and we all have reasons, big reasons why. And sometimes it's easy to get frustrated with our friends or our family. They're not reacting a certain way, and that's just because they're in fear and their anxiety, but it's triggered something within their own inner child, or and it's triggered the identity and the roles that they've formed. If you are in a situation at the moment and you recognise that there is something coming up for you now and you would like some support, I also do inner child healing sessions. I normally, to be honest, do it mostly just for my healing therapy and coaching clients and while I'm doing coaching, but it is something that I'm offering and I have limited space. But if it's something that you feel you need help with, book a session, okay? I hope you're having a wonderful day. Bye for now.